Uh, Welcome to Poetry Club. Here's your head Shyzabox. No, you're not done. Tell the episode. Fish episode. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Whoa! Oh yeah! Whoa! Oh Nelly! Oh! 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 Get out! And the horse you rode in on! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one, welcome all. Apprentice here. It's our show. Out of here. Jeez. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one, welcome all. We have got a fantastic show for you tonight. By me saying it, oh, good call. We've got a free show for you, and believe you me, it is time for us to sit back and really begin to enjoy the victory laps with the skulls of our enemies. Skulls of our enemies, we're talking poetry, right? You might be saying, what? That's kind of an odd way to start, but you know what? Looks like our poetry club has a chance after all. Now, you might be saying, I love poetry. What are you trying to do to it, right? Why are you going to make me not poetry? That's not our case. If anything, you should love it all the more. Because believe you me, we love poetry. Now, we're somewhat of poets ourselves. So believe you me, when we were like, it's time for Poetry Club. It's time for us to, hone in all of those works we have been doing over the years that strictly have to deal with the subject matter of, in essence, fish, right? You might be saying, what? Poetry about fish? Well, that doesn't sound fun. No, it's probably not going to be. So feel free to mute it and go to a club. You don't got to watch it. Don't get me wrong. We'd love the view, but you don't got to be here to get that. Mute it, go to a club. Mute it, go to a bar. Mute it, go to sleep. We get the view, you don't got to suffer through it. And either way, regardless of how you feel about poetry, believe you me, someone's going to be suffering by the end of it. You might be saying, we are. Where's Colbert? Well, believe you me, looks like there's a void in late night entertainment, and we are here to make you find it even faster. You might be saying, right, do you know who it is, where we should go? No, we were hoping you knew. That's why we're on. Oh, hold on. Management's calling. What do you want? We're mostly on time. We're doing the show. Mm-hmm. What? No. Check the comments. Okay. Well, I guess, but don't act like you run the place. Anyhow, looks like we got a comment we have to tend to. Something about, I don't know. St. Patrick Day is over, dude. And the question, what you drinking, beer or alcohol? Well, OG, OG, can we call you that? Of course we can. So, Knucklehead, here's the thing. We're drinking currently, one thing at a time. St. Patrick's Day, yes, might very well be over, but we don't know what that has to do with anything. Anyhow, we're drinking a go juice from the skulls of our enemies, okay? Now you might be saying, what? I drink from the skulls of my enemies too, all the time. And believe you me, when you join Poetry Club, sometimes you have to. You might be saying, well, then I'm not joining. That sounds disgusting. But was it not Shakespeare that had people holding skulls on stage? Does Shakespeare not permeate poetry from his permeations, or his works. Probably his works is the way you want to go with that one. But the thing about it is that Shakespeare, what a phenomenal individual. You could study his works and not understand a damn thing that they try and convey for years on end. But believe you me, you can pay someone to tell you what that means, and you won't be able to question them. You just kind of accept it. Like, oh, you're saying Shakespeare's saying what now? Well, fuck it. Sounds okay to me. But anyhow, just called me Knucklehead. Well, OG, I thought that you're OG Knucklehead, F-O-E, right? That spells foe. You know, OG, the thing about it is that when you're internet celebrities like us, you know, you read through the lines, okay? And by through the lines, you skip them, right? There's no reason why we should feel obligated to read chats in order, okay? As celebrities, you might be saying, oh, you're not a celebrity. Well, see, that's where you're wrong. OG, the thing is that there's a void in late night entertainment. Colbert's gone. New shows are on the block. You might be saying, well, I'm going to go find one of those. And believe you me, when you do find one, please let us know so we can watch it too. But the point is that there's a void. There's a gap. And in the meantime, looks like we have to do Poetry Club. So, excellent. Thank you for your participation. So dead he pulled out the pink phone. What? Hold on. OG, you know, we're trying to get to poetry here, and believe you me, we have been writing poetry all week long to prepare for this event, but believe, you know, I guess you don't want to hear it. No one wants to hear poetry. Come to Poetry Club, you don't want to hear poetry. No, please, say the poetry. And the rest of you are like, no, fucking don't. End the stream. Okay, we get it. You don't know what it is. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if there's going to even be any poetry here because we gotta contend with this. Hold on. We invested after Colbert shows, you know, kind of going out of business. They got a lot of stuff on clearance, right? And believe you me, when you have a show that's budget is, well, you know, nothing, then you try and get as much clearance as you can, i.e., we invested in, you know, the show that's going out of business is a communication device, right? And you might be saying, what, Lucky? Of course. It's a little bit of dated technology. You might have found it in the 90s, but it still works pretty well. It's a Star Trek communicator pin. It's how we get the office to call us. Check it out. Hey, tell management to call the show. Usually takes a sec, OG, but believe you me, hold on, there they are now, but I'm going to let it ring for a sec. Yeah, stopped ringing. Hold on. Hey, why'd you stop calling us? I don't care. You're trying to prove a point here. OG's sitting here talking about needing some kind of phone. So can you use the phone or not? That's not what he said. No. Well, okay. Well, like you know everything. Fucking management. You know, OG, I don't know what it's like where you work, but around here it's like they think they know how to run the place, right? Continually, day in, day out. We're in charge. We know what's best. If they knew what's best, OG, we would have hit, probably. How many subscribers does this shit channel have? Probably not enough. That's why they're not paying us. Anyhow, we digress. Let's go to poetry. So, we know that you're saying, wow, I love poetry. And that's why you're here. That's why we're here. Well, we're here because we have to be. But you probably love poetry. So, we have been working on poems about fish for quite some time. Believe you me, we're actually even going to play them for you. You might be saying, please don't. But we're going to because it's Poetry Club. And because we see no one's added a poem to the chat box, looks like we got to float the show ourselves. So, you know, OG, we thought you were a poet yourself. You might call yourself, you know, an author, a rapper, a writer. Which is an author, okay? We get it. You're padding your resume. Make it sound better, okay? Back when we were a professional pizza delivery technician, we did the exact same thing. We were like, we drive pizza to people. Okay? No one would hire us. Doesn't matter. Point is, OG, is that it's time for the first poem. You might be saying, oh, God, no, please. But is that please yes? Either way, we got to do it. So, this one is called Ducks Love Fish. Ducks love fish. They eat them. They love to eat and swim. Stomach cramps. Fish! Excellent. Well, that was the first poem, and it's called Ducks Love Fish. So what you got to think is, what was the message behind that one? What was the overall, mood, the theme, the setting, okay? And we're going to break it down, believe you me. If there's one thing you got to know, it's every component of that. And you might be saying, play it one more time, perform it one more time. But no, we're retiring it. You might be saying, oh, this is horse shit. You're just making this shit up as you go. No. We wrote that one a long time ago. Dude, that was like way earlier in stream, okay? We've been working so hard on getting this show lined up, okay, that they had time to say their shit cannon Colbert, right? Or doing whatever they're doing with that, closing it. Maybe he's retiring, right? If by retiring you mean we get to scoop up any scraps of people who forget to find a better show, absolutely, we're here. Wish you were. Well, we all have a lot of wishes that genies don't grant. And if there's one wish that a genie would grant, it's that we could get to the next poem. But we can't without breaking down the overall message and the, really the overall guiding principle that's found within the words in the confines of that last work that we so elegantly and eloquently presented to all of the, poetic connoisseurs out there. Okay? You might be saying that, I didn't find the overall meaning of the poem to be as rooted in the fact that ducks inherently love eating fish, right? And you might be saying, sure, okay, ducks love eating fish, right? That's undisputed. But in a poem, if a duck is swimming along, okay, this is an example, okay? If a duck is swimming along, say there's a fish there. Now, in this case, it's a demigod, Maui, formed into a shark, but no, he's here. So, you got demigod Maui here and a duck. And the duck's like, I'm swimming and I'm hungry. Tries to eat demigod Maui, right? And he does. Now he's gone. No part 3. Damn it, kids are crying, right? Is that poetic justice? No, absolutely not. That's why we don't focus on the part that the duck single-handedly scraps and annihilates Disney's entire Moana franchise in one fell swoop. No. The duck symbolizes society. The fish that duck loves to eat symbolizes eating. Okay? When you dissect poetry, as we have done, you'd be like, that was perfect, move on. Okay, excellent. Well, good idea. Anyhow, since we're doing so well, let's make sure we're not missing anything. Is this voodoo? What is going on? RN. Well, we are not a registered RN, but if there's one thing that we are, it's pretty close to a boomer, so we're guessing that you might need an RN. Okay, well, there's better places to express that than in an internet chat room. Is this the internet chat room? We're on the internets, right? This is what this counts as. But it's what they call a stream of the stream service, okay? So we're pretty much almost like a Netflix now, only we don't port all our fucking content from across the globe to here. We make it in-house, and by we, it's the other people that work here. We just kind of show up and try not to get sued for breach of contract. But that's legal jargon and talk. That has nothing to do with poetry. unless there's sweet poetic justice, and our lawyer finds a way to get us the fuck out of this contract. Anyhow, we digress. This next poem that we want to get into is about another aspect of fish that really resonates and hits home with anyone who has ever smelled one, okay? Now, this one is played on what we call thumb drum, so don't get too excited like it's going to be some fantastical endeavor. Please bear with us as we have been attempting to perfect this one for the better part of probably 6 or 8 years, okay? So, without further ado, on thumb drum, we have our poem that's going to be all about the smell. Just making sure the chat box is quiet. I want to hear a pin drop. I can't hear for shit. Okay. What's that smell? Stinky fish. What's that smell? Stinky fish. Excellent. Well, you can see, damn it, apprentice, get in here! Fix the sign immediately! That's my lord. Excellent. Out of here, apprentice horse show! Jeez. Anyhow, you could see that that poem really kind of tried to convey how modern post-industrial literature affected the rhythm and the routine of culinary culture in the mid-14th century. Okay, now you might be saying, no, that sounded way more 15th century-esque. But, see, that's where you're wrong. Because they didn't necessarily recite poetic, endeavors, all right, like bard's tales and things of that nature without a thumb drum in those time frames, okay? And that's why it, for us, more conveys towards the 14th century and not the 15th, okay? Because it was a different time, and, to us it just kind of resonates there. But that's beside the point. Now, we're going to not spend as much time dissecting that last poem as we did the one before. And that's because this next one we are so excited to share with you, okay? We wrote this one exactly to the day, like earlier, okay? And you might be saying like, oh man, it's gonna suck. No, not this one. This one's gonna be good, okay? You might be saying, well, you didn't say that about the last couple, so I'll give you a chance. Fair enough. All right, so this one is called Fish, oh Fish, Where Are Thee? Okay, now this one has the steady Morocco beat. Okay? Maraca beat. Fish, oh fish, where could you be? I'm looking, I'm scouting, but I don't see thee. I'm walking the beach line, and there you are. A shark bit half your fucking body off and you washed up. You're the size of a jar. Excellent. Well, you might be saying now, how are you going to define this one as far as how it is applicable towards not only the utilization of modern technology in the form of glass manufacturing in the post-industrial, complex that is the manufacturing industry and where it sits today? You could be saying they used to make glass in all sorts of colors, shapes, sizes, varieties, okay? Hell, they used to make like uranium glass and things like that. Shit glows in the dark. It's super cool. But that's beside the point. If you're walking along the beach, you're looking for a fish, then obviously it's kind of like relating to the post-industrial. It's such a, cliche time frame to write poetry about, but, the post-industrial revolution, okay? And when you actually see that the fish's carcass, okay, with the shark that has bitten it and taken a, substantial chunk out of it, okay, if it were like Maui shark and, the fish is trying to swim away, he got the good piece of him, okay? So, the equation of a monumentally average-sized fish being the size of a jar at the end really conveys how, with the manufacturing industry of what it was, at least at the turn of the, post-industrial revolution, it became what it is today, in which a half-chewed up, chunked-ass fish that you see as you're walking along the ocean, you're walking along the beach, right? To be honest, unless you're Jesus, you're probably not walking along the ocean, okay? But that's semantics, and we know that you weren't saying that you were. But we had to clarify that just because. That reminds me, it's about time in the stream that we like to do everything, on a fairly regular schedule. And by regular, we mean there's no schedule to anything at all. But it is the time of the show that we do like to apologize for last stream. So, sorry about that. Okay, anyhow, let's move on. Poetry, right? We have got some fantastic poetry still lined up. Because there's one, and you might be saying, oh, it's a fish episode. He's not going to do one on an octopus. It's like, don't be discouraged. Oh, yeah, no, we're not. Be discouraged. It's the fish episode. But we do have one on a squid. And you might be saying, that's cheating, you son of a bitch. I wanted an octopus. Well, you don't get what you want always. Unless you tell me in the chat you want one of our older poems about octopi. In which case, we'll give you one, but that's because we are the accommodating type celebrity. So feel free, we will. But until then, we are going to do the poem on squid. Believe you me, we're going to have a substantial breakdown on the end, so we might not even get around to your request. We'll have to see if we have time for it at the end. Hold on. Management's calling again. What do you want? We're trying to get this shit done with so we can go home. Uh-huh. Oh. Don't tell people that. Okay. Well, I guess you have a point, but, I don't know how we can remember all these rules and, policies and things like that every day. So, you guys might want to change them. Excellent. They chime in and try and state something that appears to be a policy or something like that, like chase off the audience, something or another, but it's like, shit, if they leave, we leave sooner. Who cares, right? The point is that now we're going to do our poem about squid because management was trying to jack up the show, but they can't make us fail. We do that enough on our own. Believe you me, this next one about squid is almost about overcoming that failure that one might see in their lives. Squid, squid, how do you swim? Your little tentacles, they look really weird. Don't sting me or ink me or whichever one you do. You creatures of the deep ocean blue. Thank you. Excellent. Yes, so you might be saying, well, that was, yes, about squid, but, there was enough ocean-y kind of related fish material to where we'll let it kind of slide. Now, arguably, you might not be happy with that decision, but that's the thing about Poetry Club. We're all welcoming of everything we want to do or incorporate. So, in lieu of that fact, we get to incorporate and do pretty much whatever we want. And that squid poem really is one that has been near and dear to our heart. We're going to retire it now. We won't perform that one again. But that poem itself was so near and dear to our heart, we had written it a long time ago. But, alas, yes, we come to the point in the show where, yes, we're going to do yet another poem. And this one here is, no, not about octopi. No one said to do one about it. Which means that we're just going to keep that one in the old memory bank till you fess up and admit that you want one. But that's okay if you don't. You can be shy. You can sit back. We get it. You're wanting to just sit back, kick back, enjoy some poetry, right? Some Akorian Topanga, right? You know what we're talking about. Poetry Club. That's what we're here for. And that's why this next one that we bring to you is to help influence those moods where you're at a Coldplay concert and you're like, I really want to be romancing the stone. And so this next one is about going to a Coldplay concert and, ironically, them fishing you out. I didn't know Coldplay was still around. How could they get a concert off the ground? Then they busted two dudes making out or something. Excellent. Well, you might be saying, well, that doesn't sound like a poem about fish, but believe you me, we're trying to catfish some folks, get them in here, trick them, right? Maybe they would click on the stream, accidentally forget it's on, and go to a club, and then be like, whoops, that dude got a view. That's my bad. But, at that point in time, it's too late, so we don't care. Anyhow, in Poetry Club, there does come a night in the show where we want to give credit where credit's due. And you might be saying like, oh, finally, some poetic history or something along those lines, something of some sustenance. Not just a bunch of original created masterful works and pieces, but something that I may have heard before. My yeats, my other stuff. But no, that's not the type of poetry we're going to talk about now. We already did our original works. If you missed that part, better luck next time. Well, unless you want us to go back. We still didn't do a poem about octopus, but, it was so kind of close to the topic, but not. It was fish edition, not octopus edition or ocean edition. But if we really must, then we'll go back and do the octopus poem. But until then, we need to kind of move forward, because that's what life does. Just like in the way that now there's a ginormous void. Well, let's be honest, there's not really a void at all, because the audience wasn't there to begin with. But with late night shows pulling the plug on some of the bigger well-knowns and things of that nature, well, sky's the limit for all of us little celebrities that are clawing at the bit to stay bare minimum as far as relevancy to anything, to where we can really mess up and do anything. Now, it doesn't look good when we do, but it's kind of like, oh, he did that? Sounds right. So, that's the beauty of the relationship that we have with being a celebrity. We're kind of the best of the worst, right? Everyone else out there that's a celebrity is better, and that's known. But, with us calling the Daryl Dixon dibs on being the best of the worst, really solidified our position as a celebrity. You might be saying like, oh, this is horse shit. Colbert's gone, now we got this asshole. Yeah, well, difference is that this is free. It'll never be behind a paywall. We just need to devise a plan to get YouTube to pay us, right? And by devise a plan, we mean we already have one. So, you should have come to those meetings a long time ago, so we already held them. But as we were sitting back sipping from the skulls of our enemies, writing poetry for, a poetry club, we thought to ourselves, there's a component of poetry that you cannot convey in a mere poem itself. You cannot just talk about or briefly skim. You need to divert an entire section and segment of the show to express the meaningfulness, the greatness, the amazingness that it entails, both past, present, and, God willing, future. And believe you me, that future, God willing, because a whole nother episode that we got coming down the pipe, more media horse shit from X of the boxes this is, right? Xbox can do no wrong. Game Pass can do no wrong. Well, looks like they're doing some wrong in our eyes, but that's another episode. Tonight is poems. It's poetry. It's Poetry Club. And if there is one credence that we could give, one iota of gratitude that we could convey, dole out, dish out to an entity that single-handedly made us fall in love with poetry itself, it's the one. It's the only. Dead Poets Society. That's right. You might be saying like, oh, rhymes? Yes. That's the one. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Dead Poets Society, single influenced our decision, in essence, poets. You might be saying, well, and, I mean, I guess, right? We write them all the time. We recite them. Hell, most of the works tonight were, believe it or not, those were ours. Those are originals. You might be saying, no way, I don't believe you. A super professional had to have written those poems, and believe you me, they did. It was us. Those poems were as flawless in their delivery and execution that we, presented them to you in, as they were in their, creation and presentation and how we wrote them, right? You might be saying, I don't agree with you. I don't think that's true. But that's your opinion. So anyhow, moving into it, Dead Poets Society, yes, single-handedly is one of the most poetic movies that could ever garner getting people to come to the field of the study of poetry from the realm of something inherently don't get your ass kicked for in school necessarily on a daily basis. Now, we know, as of the last couple decades, you old fuck, right? Okay, they made bullying not allowed, stuff like that, so kids don't inherently get their asses kicked every day, okay? You can go and do the poetry, and you can just, hey guys, I write poetry, and they're like, oh, well fucking lay one on us. It's like, okay, and they do. They're like, God, that one sucked. I'm gonna go watch Shyzabox, say some of his original poems. They're like way better. Right? You might be saying, no, don't put words in our mouth. There's no way in hell we'd say that. We love our friends' poems. Well, that's the thing. We don't. We haven't heard them. And ours are probably better. So, point is that Dead Poets Society single-handedly could get individuals and folks to go and start studying poetry on its own if they liked the movie enough and felt like going to study poetry. You might be saying, well, anything could do that. A poem could do that, a book, a movie, a TV show. It's like, yes, obviously all those things could. And hence, you're kind of, bringing the argument back. Because we already picked the movie, Dead Poets Society. We're talking about it. You might be saying, well, you're controlling the conversation, but that's beside the point. If we didn't come full circle to make it seem like your circle was only half completed, then we would never form a full oval, and the rectangle and square would be left out, and the triangle would be sitting in the corner wondering what the fuck is going on and what the hell we're talking about. We could sit here all night long, talk about how Colbert's gone, how there's not going to be another iteration of late night entertainment, how we're stuck with this, how we should you know, go about where we get our entertainment from in the future. But the thing is that that's all another show. We're talking about Dead Poet Society. Again, you bring the argument to where it's not focused. And the focus is on Dead Poet Society right now. You might be saying, well, I don't like Robin Williams. He was in that one movie. Which one? Aladdin? You don't like him doing the genie voice? Okay, fair enough. Whatever. We don't care. He was really good. He was the genie, right? You might be saying, no, the other movie. Oh, the one that he grows really big, really fast, Jack. That movie's awesome. And, boy, believe you me, are we glad that someone that we said, hey, if you want one of these houses like you said you like in this movie, we get you one. And believe you me, we were men of our word. They were like, no thanks. We're like, oh, fucking okay. But we offered it, and they said no. We were about to have to work to get an entire house for someone that wasn't us. Believe you me, we would have had to become celebrities a lot sooner. But that's beside the point. Point is that we wanted to live a little more underground. Get a little more life experience so that, you know, when we invoked our celebrity status, it was more so along the lines of when we were ready for it, right? And the bell strikes 12. It also strikes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and every iteration of time in between. But the point is that it doesn't, though, right? But it does. You're only listening to half of the story. Because, yes, the bell strikes toll, right? On the hour. When we say everything in between, and you start going like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense, then, again, you're taking the conversation to a point, to a area that it doesn't need to go. So, think about that every time that you're chiming in with the words we're putting in your mouth, okay? You're kind of leading to us having to pad the show, okay, with content. And believe you me, we're not even going to joke. We were holy shit. And I mean, we don't want to be mean. But we, no joke, and we know our place, okay? We're the best of the worst, okay? We're on the ground floor. Everyone steps on our hands and heads and shit, and they're like, oh, get out of here, shitty celebrity. Blah! The good one, right? Well, not everyone can get to the good one at all times. So, folks like us are there to fill the void. Speaking of which, I guess we'll do our part. You can right now go on, even in the video form, touch us through the internet camera. Go on. Okay. It's enough touching. Okay, thank you. We don't know where you've been. You know. But when we invoked our celebrity status with our Daryl of the Dixon dibs on being best of the worst, we thought to ourselves, man, we're glad we watched Walking Dead so we could fall back on our philosophy minor because our college degree seems to be pretty worthless. So, fantastic. Anyhow, Dead Poet Society, another school, another place that handed out degrees, diplomas, educations to the young moldable mind. The minds that were, you know, given conversation, given thoughts and ideas that existed outside the realm and wheelhouse of what they began to ever think to be possible, to ever conjecture as being, as truth, as existing in itself. Dead Poet Society, single-handedly for us, made us fall in love with that movie itself. That shit's awesome. We love that movie. Like we said, oh, Captain, my Captain. Robin Williams at his finest. You might be saying, no, Miss Doubtfire is. No, the one where his kid, you know, kind of has his way with himself and it's unfortunate. Okay, whatever, whichever one is your cup of tea. Dead Poet Society presents the beauty of the soul of poetry stuff. Okay? It tells a story. It paints a picture. It brings intrigue and mystery. And it might do it over the course of an entire movie, unlike a poem that's able to move you within just a few strokes of someone's pen, putting it to paper, making it leap off the page and straight into your earpiece holes, right? You might be saying, wow, that's the most beautifully majestic thing I've ever read and seen, and it has touched and moved me so much, I'm going to read it again, right? And that's the thing. That's how we can, get YouTube's money, okay? You can watch these streams again. Now, you don't have to watch them. You click on them, you mute them, you go to work. Click on them, mute them, go to bed. They play in the background, hopefully in the other room. You don't have to contend or deal with it. We get the view. Bada bing, bada boom. We give free crap content. YouTube gives us free fractions and fractions of pennies so that they can pocket the rest from all them sick-ass commercials that we hope they play on our content one day. Okay? We're falling back on this philosophy minor degree pretty hard. So we're going to need all of your help out there. Okay? Shyzabox only works if people do the job for us. Believe you me, it's a lot of hard work for everyone else but us. Okay? But with that, keep in mind, you get a genuine, certified philosophy minor with which you can interact. Ask your life's problems, ask your life's questions, recite poetry with upon a poetic endeavor and a poetic night. You might be saying, no way, you don't even have a doctorate. Well, no. See, that's the thing about college. We learned that you kind of don't need one. Unless you're in a field where you kind of need one. Okay, we're not morons. We minored in philosophy. Obviously, you can't be a moron if you minor in philosophy or, even get a degree, right? No way, you didn't fall for a big college scam. And you should have gone to a tech school. Absurd. Anyhow, the schools that push the student to think beyond the realms of, and we're not saying we're a school here, obviously, a school of thought, not rooted in fact, entertainment. When does that start? We don't know. No one knows. Probably never. If we're being honest. And we are. Because we are. Anyhow, you got Dead Poet Society painting the picture of education to the minds of impressionable, young, moldable youth. Okay? When, oh Captain, my Captain, informs the students of the antics of the craziness that was once lived in times past, times before, when the students began to venture out of the comfort zone of what they knew was acceptable existence, even though their current existence was unacceptable in what they brought to the table or did. Ethics be damned. Rules be damned. Regulations be damned. School policy be damned. We're here. We're living in the moment. And we're doing poetry stuff, right? And you want to talk about them casting that well? They cast that well. They did it well. What a beautiful building and classroom and the architecture and all that. The exact kind of location you would expect that story to transpire, unfold, and take place in. And believe you me, it does. It's in the movie. Watch it, or don't. Maybe you don't like poetry. In which case, why are you here? No. Misclick. It happens all the time. Sorry about that. Just delete your cache. Shouldn't be a problem moving forward. You're good. Dead Poets Society had Robin Williams really, in essence, getting his career kick-started in a dramatic way that totally was at odds with his zany and crazy antics. You start looking at the roles that led after, the Dead Poets Society itself. You start thinking of the other kind of dramatic movies that he undertook and went on, and the adventures that you went on with him, okay? You look at those dramatic roles like in What Dreams May Come. That movie is insane. If you have never seen it, you're probably missing out, okay? What Dreams May Come, as far as standing the test of time, we cannot argue if it does or not. We haven't seen it in a minute, but from our recollection, every aspect, component, and, element of it delivered in very, very well done stride, pacing, and storytelling, okay? One of the most dramatic roles that you could possibly ever fathom an actor or actress undertaking, okay? And when you have the beauty of the horrors that are affiliated and associated with elements surrounding the events that transpire in that movie, then you hone and tap into the poetic reality that goes all the way back to the philosophy of life, which we updated, being brutal, nasty, and short, regardless of how it comes by and how it goes. Robin Williams, even in his other endeavors that he undertook in the more dramatic roles, he was able to tap into the poetic beauty of life itself and convey it to everyone that went on those journeys with him, okay? If you watch the Dead Poets Society, you go to What Dreams May Come, hey, you see the way that he goes in that direction. If you watch Dead Poets Society and you watch Miss Doubtfire, then you can relate and see where he pulls from and goes in that direction. The poetic beauty of how Dead Poets Society has so many incorporated elements to it: mystery, danger, intrigue, comedy, science, art, beauty, school, storytelling. All of the elements and parameters are there. They have been for decades. That's why that movie has always been what it is. A fan favorite amongst all those who venture into the realm of poetry. And the best poetic justice you can have, as you sip from the skulls of your enemies, is knowing that Dead Poets Society exists in general, and no matter what component or aspect of it you see pulled from it, or that you can affiliate or associate in different avenues of life, it can always come back to one thing. You can find a starting point, and you can find a movie, and you can find a story, and you can find an acting job, and a casting job, and a directing job, okay, that hit and checked every single box of what it needed to create pure poetry on screen. And that's what Dead Poets Society gets you. Like we said, you can see all sorts of elements of later points in, Robin Williams' career, where he could potentially have, fuck, we never asked a dude, where he could potentially have derived or gotten it from, okay? Like we said, some of those comedic elements. You watch Mrs. Doubtfire and Believe You Me, there's some crazy, zany stuff in that. Pretty crazy movie. All right, you watch Jack, and you have almost like a honed-in, tapped-in sadness of leaving the classroom whilst you're both the teacher and the student. What kind of actor would have been able to portray the character Jack in the movie Jack if not for Robin Williams? Now, sure, they would have cast someone. Someone would have done a job. Maybe the movie would have done better. Maybe it would have gotten phenomenal critical acclaim and review. Of course, when we went and saw it in theaters, we're that old, we thought to ourselves, this is a good-ass movie. We love Robin of the Williams. And these, flicks that he keeps putting out are relatable and at the least entertaining for their longevity. And so as far as the test of time goes, when you look at movies like What Dreams May Come, do they hold up to it? Uncertain. Maybe that's one of those things like the TV show Seinfeld, right? We talk about this here and there. We don't like being broken records, but we are. We understand it. We have to be. In many ways, shapes, and form. But we try and put a little fresh coat of paint on it every time. Doctor it up a bit. By doctor it up, we mean, pretty much same message. Whatever. You have elements, all right, of Seinfeld that could very well be solved with modern technology, modern cellular devices, and phones and things of that nature. Pretty much 90% of all of the episodes go out the window if cell phones exist, right? No getting lost on the way to Bubble Boy. No missing each other at a movie premiere. No not knowing what theater people were in. No waiting for reservations because you don't have them to go eat Chinese food before you go to a movie in a different episode. Okay? No going to here, there, the other for a variety of things, right? But the thing is that Seinfeld was so great, and it still is so great even without, the technology component. As long as it doesn't exist, it works, and Seinfeld obviously works. It's a fantastic franchise, a fantastic show, and Jerry Seinfeld fantastically put together what should be almost a necessary watch for every fan of sitcom entertainment. Okay? Now, everyone has their preferences. Maybe you like more family-oriented, more, comedy-oriented. It's fucking Seinfeld, but whatever. Okay, maybe you have a preference, but Seinfeld will definitely be a watch. The antics, the absurdities, the things of that nature inherently are so monumental, so groundbreaking, that you can take a show like Seinfeld and you can take groundbreaking movies like Dead Poets Society. You can compare them side by side and realize that the technology didn't exist. There's drama, there's intrigue, there's mystery, there's science, there's all the components of a coherent story that's told from start to finish, and in Seinfeld's case, without telling any story at all. And if a show can pull that off, if a show can do that, if a show like Seinfeld is able to maintain watchable status post-technology improvements, such as cellular devices, then you know it was a winning show to begin with. There are some shows and movies that get completely destroyed with the thought of modern technology. Some shows and movies you can't fathom going back and watching because if they had one cell phone, the whole movie wouldn't happen. The whole show would need not exist. elements and aspects of different shows and movies and things of that nature. It's the storyteller's job to get the audience engaged, to make them want to hear what's dripping next off the tongue, off the lips, off the mouth of the storyteller. They want to know what comes next. And when you have elements of movies like Dead Poet Society, and you have elements of wonderful comedic storytelling like Seinfeld, and you put them right together, you start thinking to yourself, oh, sorry, hold that thought, management's calling. What do you want? We're doing the show still. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, well, if you're sure. All right. Anyhow, management says do another poem. So anyhow, this poem's going to be about rainbow trout. Now, this one is also done in maraca format. We hope that that's okay, because that's how it's supposed to be done. So, rainbow trout are colorful. They like to swim in rivers, lakes, and stuff. Excellent. Well, anyhow, we'll forget all that other stuff we were talking about. Really not that important. What is important is that there's some fantastical poetic movies that are out there. You might be saying that, you know, you can find the poetry in a variety of movies. The subtle, detrimental, heartbreaking poetry of a movie like Schindler's List. The subtle, detrimental, heartbreaking comedy of Dumb and Dumber when they realize that they have to pay back all of those IOUs with money, and whoops, they don't have any. Now, it's sad for one of the parties involved. Point is that as long as the poetic avenues are being addressed, as long as those poetic stories are being told, as long as the poems keep coming, as long as the poems hold. Hello and hi! Yes, we see that you said hi. Excellent. As long as the poems keep telling and delivering all of those stories, then you know poetry's not at risk of going away. It's at risk of getting someone else to start a better club that we can all go join. We'll just pretend this one never existed. Okay? But until then, we're here. We get to tell poetry. So, needless to say, that's almost about all we got for you tonight. But we will stick around. We will entertain all of the masses. If you would like to interact with a real-life internet celebrity, now is your chance. Might not be the one of your choice, the one of your hopes, the one of your dreams. But we are here, and we are the best of the worst. Because, like we said, we called a Daryl Dixon Dibs from The Walking Dead. So, Colbert's out. We're in. Looks like there's a new show in town. You might be saying, well, fuck us. We wish there wasn't. But that's the thing. There is. It's us. And, believe you me, it's everyone's loss. But that's beside the point as well. Like we said, we got a smidge here that we will finish. If you got any ideas for the next episode, feel free to put them into the chat of the box. We will entertain any idea that you have. And if we're being honest, we'll probably do it. Because if there's one thing we don't like doing, it's work. Because it sounds like work. So if someone else does our work for us, yeah, we'll do the episode on that. Fantastic. You know, that's the thing about being a, pretty much modern Shyzabox. Okay? Shyzabox, of course, it's a branch of philosophy. It's a modern take. Where you're kind of like, screw all that old shit. No one likes to take reason, logic, reasoning, and argumentation. That class sucks, right? You're like, well, that's the only thing that keeps people from being able to go through and do it. From being able to stomach the art, right? That one class. So, we just skip that. No, we don't. Anyhow, like we said, that's pretty much all we got for you today. So we will finish this, and then we'll be leaving. So if you want to get out of here before us, now's your chance. In fact, we actually kind of prefer that because we're going to turn off the lights, and don't trust that you won't accidentally bump your toe on something and trying to have your way with us in a court of law. So, believe you me, everything here is for entertainment, value, and purposes and reasons and things of that nature, with the exception of any philosophy, which is rooted in not fact and is actually rooted in conjecture, the theory of what is, of, could be, or was, or could be and is. Doesn't matter. What does matter is we are going to finish this now, and then we're out of here. So you're either out of here or you're telling us to do something, one or the other. Goat juice, delicious. All right. Well, we gave you your chance. Ones of chance. Looks like we're going to be coming up with an episode for the next show. Believe you me, if there's one thing that we're good at, it's figuring that shit out later. So, anyhow, we see from where you've been standing, you're beginning to push the grass down and make it all mushy and things of that nature, getting a little discolored. So, we don't want your subscription. We want your money. Download the shit out of this and give us a buck. Get off our lawn.